Hi, let's talk about the ideas of obedience and rebellion against authority in terms of community lab course. So, in psychology, the most famous study is Milgram's study, where he's conducting an experiment and asking people to continue to shock people who seemingly are very hurt or potentially dead. And the instructor in the experiment says, no, this experiment must go on. And so the research kind of gave proof to the idea that people will oblige by and go along with who they see as the authority. Now, history gives us so many examples of when someone seen as the authority will go along with genocide, murder, ostracization, oppressive behavior. I particularly love the Gustav Le Bon, who kind of almost created this field in the West, that the masses have never searched for truth. Whoever can supply them with an illusion, particularly kind of a simple explanation, will be their master. And whoever challenges the group, this illusion, will become their victim. So I think when you don't go along with the masses or with the authority that says this is what's happening, bad things can happen. I think in our culture, this idea that we should obey authority is deeply within us. I saw a recent study about clerks at a drugstore where the manager would give them ridiculous assignments to do, and they just went along with it. Part of it is kind of for survival. I think we see even in contemporary culture that people give narratives about how to act or what to believe, and because this person is seen as an authority, people will participate in this in some way. And that basically the idea is that being a member of society, being a member of a cohort in a large group, it's overwhelming. We're looking for direction of where to go in some way. So, and then I like to add this idea of perceived authority. Who is the group perceiving as the authority, and the authority around what topics in some way? I just reconnected with a former intern I supervised, and I was clinical director, and they worked under me, and they were a gender expansive Latinx person. And as we were arranging the groups for the center, they were an expert in neurodiversity. As finishing the dissertation on this topic, had read all of the research on it, has worked with so many people with neurodiverse issues, really helping them develop self-compassion and skills. But as we went around and said, okay, we're going to do a group about diversity and inclusion, everyone in the group said, I won't give their name, let's have this person do it. And luckily that person had the strength to say, like, I don't want to do that. I understand from my identity locations you would think that I would be good at that. It's actually not a topic I've put a lot of time into. I really have put most of my effort and passion and experience into neurodiversity and working with people. I'm happy to work with that piece of diversity and inclusion and accessibility. But the group saw that person, stereotyped that person, saw them as a perceived expert. And even in the groups, even if there's conversation, the things that this person said for many people held more power. And without a doubt, they had some expertise in this area. But there was many people with many marginalized identities that had also had expertise in this area. In this same group, we were figuring out who's going to run the relapse prevention group. And there was someone there with 30 years of experience. And everyone said, so-and-so, so-and-so, but the group perceived them as having the authority and wanted to obey what they thought should happen and obey their idea about treatment. But this person was really into kind of body-mind connection, yoga, how this can work with our various mood states, about healthy living habits. And the group wanted to perceive them as the authority and obey them in some way. Right? We actually had a younger psychiatrist whose their career focused on kind of addiction psychiatry, and maybe it was age or many factors. The group had a hard time letting that person be seen as an authority on this. So it's very interesting. In my 20 plus years, 30 years of teaching at Naropa, but 20 of those years I taught assessment course. And I used to give a variety of assessments to the students that they could understand how assessment instruments see their personality. And it seemed like I taught these across all the graduate school programs. And it seemed like there was three main groups, right? There was a group that really repeatedly showed up as kind of being depressed, somewhat disassociated, somewhat distracted, somewhat isolated. When they were reading their results, they felt like that fit them very well. But the other two groups had kind of similar scores, but significant differences. One group overly blindly trusted authority, praised their instructors, went along with their instructors. The term was naivety, that they maybe were overly trusting of people in power and of others in general. And the second group with similar scores were the opposite. They were very, very untrusting, very, very skeptical, very, very challenging, as their personality profile had that kind of idea about obeying authority in some way. So I'm not going to say which group is which, but I think it was very informative for all of us who participated in this. So as we continue with this idea of obedience to authority, you can ask yourself, is this group, who is the group seeing as an authority about what should be said, how this community lab should continue? Why do they see this person as an authority in some way? And then also pay attention to, is there just blind rebellion against authority? And do you have that? Do you see others having that? Are we kind of, again, reducing people to some kind of stereotype if they have a position of authority in some way? Are we being contrarian? Are we acting out on some kind of pre-Naropa training program where we had people with either their identities or in power act this way and that way, and we may not accurately be seeing what people are saying? I mean, we're very, very rarely seeing what people are actually saying. And then how can you, given the way you approach figures in authority, how can you bring awareness to this, and then ideally not just either blindly obey or blindly rebel, but how can you work collaboratively to kind of recognize your tendencies and recognize their strengths, to build out on their strengths in some way? And then how can you pay attention to the group? Is it in some kind of authority dilemma? This is very, very big in organizational and systems and group literature, that there's some wrestling with authority that must happen. And ideally, the groups come to terms with there is someone leading this and will help them do a good job in some way, and they will not do a perfect job in some way. Something very important to pay attention to, and of course, You don't want to be blind to authority, and also you just don't want to be blindly rebellious to authority, but you do want to notice the pulls that are within you and the group about how they're behaving in relation to various authorities, whether it be a theory, whether it be an instructor, whether it be someone who they perceive as an authority in some area, some topic area or some area of experience. So very important to pay attention to and see how it engages and see if you can get off your habitualized patterns or sociocultural enactments towards authority. I'll finish a story. So I've led what used to be called large group or community lab in this program for about 12 years. And I remember when Clinton was president and I was younger, there was some kind of fantasy, which is that I was being kind of flirtatious and seductive and charming, but underneath I was really strategic and manipulative. So this is a sociocultural enactment of how the group saw me. Then we had George Bush while he led this group, and the projection was, I'm so dumb, I'm so incompetent, I'm just doing what the department wants, or department would be Dick Cheney in this symbolization. And then eventually I continued doing when Obama was president, and they said things to me like, oh, you're really smart, I know you really, really mean well, but I wish you were more effective. So it's that, and inevitably whoever are the instructors of this course will most likely get some projections towards major authority figures in people's personal past, and projections towards current authority figures in our sociocultural life that we have right now. I hope this is helpful. Treat your leaders well. They have a lot to teach you. They've studied it. They've meditated a long time. Don't be blindly rebellious, because it can really hijack the learning for all the other students if you make this course about, I'm going to take down the instructor, which I've had that experience. And I would see that as a socio-cultural enactment of bias and oppression based on their identities. So work with them to learn and to grow. I mean, all of us are here to try to help you have a successful career and a successful life. So I'll end there. Bye.